New text, autumn 1346. Beyond Kaffa's limestone walls, Mongol artillery stands silent on the ridge. Lord Batu grips his weathered standard, the blackened cross a grim omen. Crimson silk snaps in the wind. Soldiers march in unison. The coastal wind carries that silent banner westward across the churning Mediterranean. Spring 1347 finds the oak standard resting against a Genoese carack's timber mast. Damp linen shirts cling to mariners as synchronized oars dip into calm waters. Those whispered tides soon breach the fortified quays of Messina. May 1347. Sicilian wardens stand along the stone docks, their leather aprons stained with tar and ash. The standard is planted in a wooden crate as workers march in single file. The contagion slips past stone barriers and marches inland in October 1348. Within the marble courtyard of Florence, wool guildsmen watch from the colonnade. The standard hangs from an iron bracket, its crimson banner fluttering above ledgers and silver seals. Scholars soon seek answers in candlelit halls. December 1348. Inside the University of Paris, medical masters brace against wooden lecterns. The standard rests upon a heavy oak desk as assistants march with clay flasks. The vault from academic stone, the shadow drifts to frozen fields. February 1349. A Kentish manor's barnyard holds English yeomen against biting winter chill. The standard is tied to a timber fence post as laborers carry wooden buckets along dirt paths. Frozen ground and winter thaws into damp cobblestones and heavy wool. April 1349. London's narrow streets echo with iron lanterns and watchmen pacing timber gatehouses. The standard is mounted on a stone parapet, its blackened cross silhouetted against a gray sky. The crown itself cannot shield the realm. June 1350. Within the vaulted grand hall of the Louvre, velvet-clad courtiers brace against carved pillars. The standard drapes over a stone throne, its crimson banner pooling on marble. Stifling incense and rosewater mask. Royal dread soon meets penitent faith. August 1350. Sun-baked plazas of Toledo glow with harsh midday light. Spanish brothers stand along stone steps as the standard rests in a marbled basin. Burning sage and dried herbs fill the air. Faithful marches cannot halt the creeping tide. 1351. Venetian lagoon guards brace against iron mooring rings as fog clings to brick facades. The standard rests on a stone pier, its crimson banner heavy with damp air. The restless waters eventually give way to frozen crags. November 1351. Alpine passes howl with thin, biting wind as Swiss mercenaries stand along rocky trails. The standard is tied to a granite boulder, while rangers march with iron flasks. Frozen passes yield to imperial stone. January 1352. Prague Castle's courtyard echoes with torchlight and chainmail. Bohemian guards stand along timber ramparts as the standard mounts the iron gate. Pine resin and damp wool fill the biting air while patrol. Imperial stone soon gives way to damp valleys. March 1352. Within the Carpathian fort, Hungarian archers brace against timber, supports along the forest edge. The standard rests in a shallow trench as scouts march with wooden bows. Wet earth and damp valleys soon warm under spring sun. May 1353. Krakow's cobblestone market square hums with baking bread and dried herbs. Polish magistrates stand along timber stalls as the standard rests on a wooden table. Silver seals and carved pillars mark the quiet vigil of officials. Market squares soon yield to river tides. July 1353. Seville's stone quays glisten with salt and river spray. Castilian masters stand along iron bollards as the standard ties to a wooden mast. Heavy crates and shadowed arches frame the watchful gaze of captains scanning. River tides eventually crash against rugged shores. September 1354. The Isle of Skye's rocky cove catches coastal winds and sea mist. Scottish clansmen stand along the shoreline as the Standard plants in a granite crevice. Rugged shores soon give way to cloistered stone. November 1354. Inside Ameath Abbey, monastic healers stand along timber cloisters. The Standard rests on a stone altar as attendants march with clay pots. Lavender and beeswax. Cloistered stone soon yields to frozen waterways. January 1355. Amsterdam's narrow canals crack with frost and damp wool. Dutch wardens stand along wooden bridges as the Standard mounts a stone arch. Brass compasses and iron railings frame the frozen waterways eventually open to deep fjords. March 1356. Bergen's stone harbor catches salt spray and pale winter light. Scandinavian guildsmen stand along timber docks as the Standard ties to a post. Steel hooks and iron mooring rings. Deep fjords soon give way to quiet plains. May 1357. The Holy Roman Empire's border fort stands guard over still valleys. Imperial wardens brace against wooden barricades as the Standard plants firmly in the earth. Pine resin